Well, the markets that we're in are growing. This is the largest platform transition of computing in history. We're starting, of course, in the hyperscale clouds, and that is starting to go into the world's enterprise with agentic AI. We just went through this. I think people are starting to hear about this last couple of months. Went through this massive transition inflection point with AI, where every enterprise is now looking at agentic systems. And so that's the second wave. Beyond that, we still have to grow into the world's edge factories and all of the telco communications radios and all of the robotic systems and cars and farms and roads, and AI is just going to be everywhere. So we have plenty of runway, lots and lots of growth ahead of us.
And I'm doing the math, as you mentioned, all of those different areas. How can you fill all those orders?
Well, it'll take time. It'll take time, but we have lots of time. And I think we're at the beginning of probably about a decade of build out. People think that it looks like a lot of capacity being built, but in fact, it's a very small amount of the total capacity the world needs. The amount of computation we need is far greater than the amount of capacity we're putting online this year and next year. And so this is going to be a build out that's going to take well over a decade.
So with the build out, your Grace Blackwell chips, those are the ones that are in hot demand, still selling like crazy. I saw in Q4, Grace Blackwell systems accounted for 2/3 of $62 billion in data center revenue. I know you want to reassure customers that you can fill their orders, but I wanted to ask you a pointed question. Is every Blackwell unit you can physically produce allocated through mid-2026?
Yeah. There's a home for every Blackwell we could build. And, we've done a good job planning our supply chain. Of course, we've been growing very, very fast and at very large scale now for a couple, 2-3 years.
Right.
And we've been building these complicated systems for quite some time. And so our supply chain is expansive. We've been working with our suppliers and all of our partners, securing and helping them plan their forecast and their build-out plan. And then on the other side, these data centers take quite a long time to build now. And so we have visibility quite far ahead in the world.
In a way, so much of this is based on a blue sky anticipation. Everything's running smoothly. Everybody's able to borrow enough money to spend. We know the hyperscalers said that they're going to go nuts, $650 billion in spend this year alone. What if one chink in the armor happens, one thing gets hit into the bicycle spoke and trips things up? Do you prepare for something like that?
Well, it's not quite accidental like that, and it's not quite serendipitous like that. The world that I see, the world that we see, is a world that has seen a computer industry doing software the old way to now software done the new way. This is simply the way software has to be done going forward. Every piece of software will have artificial intelligence and tokens added to it. You could see that almost all of the world's software platforms are adding artificial intelligence to their platform. And the way that AI is produced, it's produced in real time. Just the reason why I call it an AI factory. These data centers are going to become factories, and these factories will generate revenues. They'll generate tokens, and they'll generate revenues. And so the CSPs that are building, the data centers that are building out NVIDIA's computing systems, they see demand. They have so much demand on their books from all of the companies in the world, all the startups in the world who are going to secure this compute to go generate tokens. And so on the one hand, NVIDIA's gear has, earmarked for customers all over the world on the one hand. On the other hand, the capacity that they're bringing online has been earmarked for customers. And so to the extent that you could see that the GPUs we shipped, the computing systems we shipped 6 years ago, the pricing of that computer based on, it's called A100 amperes, even the spot price of those computers are going up. And so the demand is really through the roof.
You brought up software here. You've watched it lately. These white papers and these research notes have come out rendering, possibly in hypothetical terms, rendering so much software obsolete, it'll just go away because AI will replace it. Are you following that theory, that way of thinking? Do all these software companies just go away?
I think they have it completely wrong. these software companies are building tools. Well, first of all, not all software tools will stay around forever, but most of the tools that we use, they exist for a good reason. And intelligent beings like ourselves are using these tools, and they're very useful to us. There's a reason why they exist. There's a reason why we've been using it for a long time. What's likely to happen is that AI will become, these agents will be assistants of ours, and they will use these tools. And so it's very likely that the amount of tool users inside a company will grow because of agents. And of course, these companies that are developing these tools, they'll use agents to help them develop their tools as well. And so all these tool companies, all these tool companies will offer agents. These agents will help us use the tools. It's going to be great.
On the call, you didn't address the severe memory supply shortage. At least I didn't hear you do it. Micron calls it the worst shortage in 40 years. Your Blackwell GPUs come in, I did a little studying on your website, come in several variants, large amounts of on-chip memory, far higher than the previous generation are required. How is that affecting your supply chain?
Well, we've had the benefit of working with Micron since the very beginning, and a lot of their memory architecture and the memory technology that they're offering today is as a result of partnering with us and specifying us, working with them to specify their roadmap. We are their largest customer. We've done a good job securing the capacity that we need for our business in FY27, this 2026 calendar. And we're planning FY28, and our sense is that we're going to be able to continue to do that.
The China sales issue, you've said now that in the current quarter, you still expect zero revenue from any China sales. But the Trump administration has finally opened up the channels for you to sell certain chips to China. What is the holdup, Jensen? Is it Beijing? Is it some type of paperwork situation here?
We've in our guidance assumed zero. We're hoping for more than zero, but we've guided to zero. And the reason for that is because we're still waiting for the customers in China to ascertain, to decide how much they're able to purchase on their side. We've been approved to some narrow licenses for some of the customers, and now the customers have to decide for themselves how much they're allowed to buy. I think in the final analysis, it's very clear now that the concern that China is going to use American technology to advance their AI, that's just poorly placed. Obviously, they have their own technology. Their chip companies have gone IPO. They're doing incredibly well. Huawei just had a record year because we were left out of that marketplace, blocked out of that marketplace. And so I think that the concerns about China relying on American technology to advance their AI industry is just poorly placed. AI includes energy, it includes the chip industry that we're part of. It also includes, of course, models and applications. And it's a five-layer cake, if you will. And every single layer has an industry, and all of those industries American industry should go compete around the world to go secure AI leadership for the United States.
I know you.
And so I think the decision to block Nvidia, block the United States out of the China market has surely proven to be the wrong decision.